Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Today we are talking about ways to make those early outings with your fearful dog more positive for them and for you. Let's take a look at what we have here for tips for a positive experience as you venture out into the world with your fearful dog for the first time, or at least the first several times probably. All right, so who is this for? If you have just started taking your fearful dog out of the house, likely they're nervous in a lot of new environments, and you want to gradually introduce your dog to the outside world in a way that hopefully increases the chance that they'll continue to want to do it and to will continue to increase their comfort and enjoyment on walks. Okay, tip number one may seem really obvious, but I still felt the need to mention it. Early on, do choose quiet times and locations for your walks. And remember that your dog is the one who determines what's quiet enough. So just some examples here. Here is Pancake on a little outing, and this is just our front yard. And we live in a quiet neighborhood. This isn't a through street, so there's very little traffic. So it's one example of a quiet location. Here's one of our past team dogs, Bones, and it looks like Mom has driven him over to, this looks like it may be an empty lot or something, so a very quiet area also. And here's Coco, team dog Coco, on an outing at a green space that is pretty low traffic. So those are examples of some quiet locations. Tip number 2 for positive outings, have an easy escape route available to like a safe home base. So one home base is obviously home, your actual house, but if you're farther afield, your car can serve as a safe home base. So for example, here's Pancake doing a little quote-unquote outing onto our front porch, and you can see I've left the front door open so he can retreat back into the house at any time. So that's one example of an easy escape route to a safe home base. Another thing I've often had clients do is do some training and exploring right next to the car. And so here Bones is going back to the car. The door is left open so the dog can retreat to that sort of safe haven. And for some dogs, like Pancake, so any kind of enclosed space like a carrier, a backpack, potentially even a crate that you could take with you could serve as kind of a home base they could retreat to. So early on when I took Pancake out, at first he just stayed in his pack, and then after a while he started to venture out a little and then would return to his pack. And that was kind of where he seemed to feel more secure. I also have clients whose dogs do better in like strollers. That's another option that would go on the list of things like packs and maybe crates. All right, tip number 3, if you can, if it's safe to do so, use a long line. It doesn't have to be a super long line, but giving your dog a little more leash than the usual 6-foot leash can often be helpful, and keep it loose. You do want to keep it out from under your dog's feet, but many dogs seem to feel more comfortable if they're able to walk around without tension from a leash pulling on them, and that's easier to do if you have more leash to work with. So again, in that this photo I showed you earlier, Pancake here is on a long line. His line's about 12 or 15 feet long, I think, so that gave him more freedom to move around and explore without the leash tightening. You can see here that Coco is dragging a long line. It's in the grass there. All right, tip number 4 for increasing the chances that our outings with our fearful dogs are more positive is to incorporate some of their favorite training games. Now, if your dog just wants to sniff, that's fine too. That's a good activity. But a lot of times it can help a dog to play familiar games, training games that they know and like hand touch, spin, look at me, whatever. Or you could even play favorite games with toys like frisbee, fetch, that kind of thing. All right, last tip is to keep the outing short. Now, Again, there are cases where this probably wouldn't apply if you've gone to some remote location and your fearful dog is having a fantastic time exploring. By all means, let them keep exploring if they're having fun. But often we are taking our dogs out to places where they are maybe a tiny bit anxious, at least at times during the outing. And so it's perfectly fine to say, drive to a quiet park, get out of the car, leave the car door open so your dog can get back in whenever they want. Hang out for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, do some training games, let them sniff, and then go home. There's nothing wrong with that, and that might be in your dog's best interests. I know we tend to think of outings as longer things, half hour, an hour, but for a lot of our fearful pups, that's just way too much. So keep it short in the beginning. Okay, so to summarize, tips for fearful dog outings: choose a quiet time and location. Have an easy escape route to some kind of home base. We talked about, the house, the car, a pack. You could set up, if there's some other way, you could set up a safe space sort of in an open space behind a building, behind some trees, whatever. Just think about how you can do that for your dog. Use a long line if it's safe to do so your dog has more freedom to move around. Incorporate favorite training games. And keep the duration short, unless your dog's having an absolute blast. Don't overdo it. Keep these short in the beginning. I hope this helps. Please do let us know if you incorporate any of these suggestions into your next outing with your fearful dog. I always love to hear what people have found that helps their dogs. If you would like to be alerted to new videos each week coming from us, go to this link at the bottom, dogkindtraining.com/newsletter. That'll get you on the email list, and you'll not only get our weekly reminders about our free content and links directly to the free content, but you'll also get alerted about any sort of time-sensitive, sales, events, new classes, or products. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week, and